morning, good morning. It is now time for your math lesson 1.2. One of the things that we're going to work on today is areas of a rectangle. So we're going to do a few things to practice today and a few things just to get our brains worked up and moving and talking about them. We're going to start by adding some fractions. Let's see what you remember. If I want to add the fraction 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8, you never add denominators. That means that 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3, and my denominator stays the same, so your answer should have been 3/8. Let's see if you can do this one. 1/9 plus 1/9 plus 1/9 plus 1/9 plus 1/9. 5/9 should have been your answer. Now, sometimes those fractions, and sometimes when we're adding fractions, it's going to be a little tricky. Like if I had 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2. If I add all of those things together, what is my answer? You should have said 4/2. Now, the problem is I don't like this. This isn't pretty. My top number should not be bigger than my bottom number. If it is, that means I need to convert. That means that this is an improper fraction. Improper fraction means that the numerator is larger than your denominator, and that means that you need to divide. Now, the cool little thing about a fraction is it kind of looks like a division symbol. You have a top number and a bottom number, a numerator, denominator. And this little line means divided by. So 4 divided by 2 is how you find the answer. That's a quick little hint. Anytime you have an improper fraction like this, a quick little way to fix that is go ahead and divide. So 4 divided by 2, my answer should be 2. Awesome. Let's see if you can do one on your own. 1/3 plus 2/3 plus 3/3 plus 6/3. Oh, it's going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky. All right, I know my denominator stays the same. So my denominator will stay 3. All right, 1 plus 2 is 3. Plus 3 is 6. Plus 6 is 12. All right. Do your division. So top number divided by bottom number. That's how you convert it. So 12 divided by 3 is 4. So 12/3 is the same thing as 4 wholes. That's how you do these problems. The addition of fractions just like this is going to help you in our problems today. Sometimes we're going to have to add fractions, and this is going to be like a little hint for those fractions. Okay. What I did is I went ahead and I did a little bit of the work ahead of time, and I wanted to kind of show you some of those things. So here you go. First, we're going to talk about what area means. So if I have a rectangle, notice that I have a length and I have a width, right? Now, this rectangle is flat. Can I measure how tall it is? Can I put a ruler and see how tall it is? I can't because it's flat. This is called a two-dimensional object. Okay, it's a 2D. You guys have heard of 3D before, sometimes 4D. 3D videos are the ones that kind of look like it's coming out at you. A 2D or two-dimensional means that it stays flat. Okay, so it's a two-dimensional object. And so when you find area of the only thing you can find area of is a two-dimensional object. You can only find area if it's flat. That's what area means. So to find area, you can do a couple of things. You can do length times width. So I could take my length, whatever my answer is, and I multiply it by the width. Absolutely, that is one way to do this problem. You also could do a couple of other different ways, and we're going to learn that today. So when you're talking about area, first of all, you're going to know my number one fact is that the object must be two-dimensional. It must be flat. Now, I multiplied two numbers. I multiplied length times width. That means that whatever my answer is, whether it's centimeters, meters, inches, yards, units, whatever it is, it's going to be called squared units. Okay, squared units. Or sometimes they say units squared with a little 2. That little 2 at the top is an exponent. We talked a little bit about that yesterday. So that little 2 at the top means it's squared. That means it has two measurements, basically. Okay? Square units. So sometimes it can be inches squared, centimeters squared, feet squared, square feet. You guys have heard that before, right? So that's what we use when we're using measurement with area. So that is my second fact. Area is measured in square units. The area means it's the inside. I know you guys have done area and perimeter. Perimeter is the outside. Like if I'm building a fence, that would be perimeter. Area is like if I want to put carpet in my living room, that's what I need to do is I need to find the area of that carpet. How much do I need? Okay. Now, again, you always are going to be able to use length times width, but sometimes it's going to be a little tricky. The reason why it's tricky is because sometimes they're going to give you a problem that doesn't always multiply very easily. So we're going to start with problem number 3. We're going to look at problem number 3. And I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to do this problem. So the first way I can do this problem is I can actually count the units. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and count them. For this problem, it's easy because it's small. But if I had something that's like my living room, say it's 37 inches by 54 inches. It's not my living room. It's way too small, but still, you guys understand. 37 inches by 54 inches. Is that easy for me to count all of those itty bitty tiny squares accurately? Probably not. So one of the ways that you're going to do this is you're going to multiply. So for number 3, you're going to multiply length. My length is 3 and my width is 4. So 3 times 4. 3 times 4 is a super simple math problem that you should be able to do. 3 times 4 is 12. One of the other things that I want you to keep in mind with multiplication is basically repeated addition. 3 times 4 means 3 groups of 4. That means I can go 4 plus 4 plus 4. 3 groups of 4. And my answer is still 12. Right? All right, notice what I did down here for my area. I said 12 units squared. Again, that is one way to write this answer. 12 units squared. Now we're going to look at the picture for number 4. For number 4, it's a little tricky, and I'm going to go ahead and just show my work a little bit. Just try to stay along with me and work along with me. One of the things about recording my videos, I recorded it and it didn't record like it was supposed to. So we're going to make do with what we have. So with this one, what's going to happen is I absolutely could count the squares, but the problem is this isn't a full square unit. It's only a half of a square unit. And so is this one. So I couldn't count it. It wouldn't work. I could multiply, but you guys haven't been taught how to multiply fractions yet. So what I'm going to ask that you do instead is I want you to go ahead and add. Okay, the easiest way is use the one that's a whole number. So this is a whole number, 2. So that means I'm going to add 4.5 twice. So I'm going to add 4.5 plus 4.5. One way to think about this is I think about this one number at a time. 1/2 plus 1/2. You should have had 2 halves. And if you divide, you know that equals 1. Okay? So if I add my fractions together, my answer would be 1. Then I'm going to look at this number. 4 plus 4. What's 4 plus 4? 8. You're right. It should be 8. And then I'm going to add the answers together. So 8 plus 1 equals 9. So your answer for this problem should be 9 units squared, 9 square units. Now, when we're talking about it, this is what I did, and I'm going to show you. Basically, I just put into words what we did. For number 3, might help if I spell a number right. For number 3, we multiplied length times width. You multiplied length times width. So I did 3 times 4 equals 12. For number 4, I added 4.5 plus 4.5, and that equals 9. Now on this answer, I used a few math words. I talked about length times width, so I did use that. So keep that in mind when you're answering these questions. When you're answering these questions, you need to use some of those math terms too. Okay. All right, now we're going to move on to the next page. When I'm looking at this next page, I went ahead and I was working on some of them before I got to see you. So on this page, what's going to happen is you're actually going to see that I drew in the units on that first square. Again, this could be helpful. For this one, maybe you could still do it. Absolutely. You can go through and you can count each of the squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and keep going until you have your answer. Or you can just use the awesome length times width formula. Okay. Length times width. And just multiply. 6 times 8. Now, those of you that don't know, some of you aren't aware of this, and I know I touched on it last week, but some of you haven't used it yet. If you look in your math workbook, the very front cover, you have a multiplication chart. So those of you that haven't used a multiplication chart before, it is very fun and it is very awesome because it does give you some information and help you find answers rather easily. Okay, so with this multiplication chart, what you can do is you can actually start at your 6 and go over to your 8 and figure out where they touch, and then that is your answer. So that can show you your actual answer. I'm going to rezoom in. There you go. So I can do 6 times 8, and I know my answer is 48. So that is a little hint that you can use if you don't know your multiplication facts very easily. Go ahead and use that hint to help you. Now, for number 1, it says it wants you to write a number sentence. A number sentence looks like this. I did 6 times 8 equals 48. Okay, that is a number sentence. The other thing that I showed you right here is you can write it as square units. So you can write it with words like that. Or you can do it like I did, as units with the little 2, as units squared. I don't care which way you want to write it. You can write it either. They both work the same. Okay? Looking at number 2. Number 2, 7.5 by 2. Now again, I could draw my lines and make them neat as I can. And I could try to count, but the problem is I have a fraction. And again, fractions are kind of hard sometimes. So we're going to have to find a different way to do this. So what I wanted to do this time is I'm going to go ahead and add. This is my whole number. That means I'm going to add the other number 2 times. So I set up my problem to be 7.5 plus 7.5. And when I add those numbers together, my answer is 15. Because half plus 1/2 is 2 halves, which is 1 whole. So 7 plus 7 equals 14, right? 1/2 plus 1/2 equals 2 halves, which equals 1 whole. And then I add those numbers together. So 1 plus 14, and my answer is now 15. That's how you're going to do this work. What I did is I went ahead and I set up number 3 for you, and I'm going to go through kind of how I set it up. I looked at my problem and I saw that I had 5 1/3. That's a fraction. Fractions can be hard, but I'm multiplying it by a whole number. So since I'm multiplying it by a whole number, that can make it a little bit easier, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add. It's easier for me to add. So I set up the problem off to the side. I'm going to do 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. And then 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3. And then I'm going to put those answers together. So I'm going to give you 1 minute. I want you to pause this problem, pause this screen right where you are as soon as I say go. And I want you to pause, and I want you to try to do this problem on your own. And then as soon as you're done, come back and we'll see how you did. Okay? Ready to pause? Go. All right, you are back. For the number sentence, you should have written 5 1/3 plus 5 1/3 plus 5 1/3 plus 5 1/3 equals, that should be your number sentence. And now I'm going to do the math. I'm going to do with my whole numbers first. I like those. They're easy. 5 plus 5 is 10. 5 plus 5 is 10. So add those together. My answer is 20. All right. 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3. I know that it takes 3/3 to equal a whole. So that means that these 3 will equal 1 whole. And I still have 1/3 left. So 20 plus 1 is 21. 1/3 plus no fraction is 1/3. So your answer should be 21 1/3 units squared. 21 1/3. If you got that answer right, great. If you didn't, pay attention as I do the next one, and maybe this will help you just redo it again. We will be practicing this all week. So if it is hard for you and you are not understanding, that is okay. We will continue to practice. This can be a hard concept, so it is okay. Also, I will be having question and answer sessions today for video people. So if this is a problem for you, make sure that you jump on for our question and answer session, okay? Okay, time for number 4. All right, again, I have a fraction. Fractions are hard for me, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to figure out my fraction in a little bit. I'm going to separate it and I'm going to add. So I set up my problem and I see that 5 times 3, or 3 groups, 5 groups of 3. So I did 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. And then I did 3/4, and I did that 5 times. So I separated it as an addition problem. So again, just like before, I want you to pause when I say pause, and I want you to figure out what is your number sentence and what is your answer. Go ahead and pause. Let's see what you get. All right, here we go. You could have drawn the boxes in, absolutely. It's a little hard to make sure that you have it perfect, and I understand that, but if you wanted to draw the boxes, that's fine. We're going to go ahead and we're going to write our problem at the bottom. We are going to do 3 3/4 plus 3 3/4 plus 3 3/4 plus 3 3/4 plus 3 3/4. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. Great. And now I'm going to add. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. And then 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 over 4. 15/4. All right. Tricky, tricky. 15/4. So if I have 15/4, I'm going to erase this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Here's 15/4. 4 of them make a whole. So there's 1, 2, 3. So 15/4 is the same as 3 3/4. Now, I told you earlier one way that you can do this is you're going to divide. Same idea. 15/4 is the same as 15 divided by 4. 4 goes into 15 3 times because 4 times 3 is 12. And then I'm going to subtract. 15 minus 12 is 3. This, your answer, becomes your whole number. Your remainder becomes your numerator. So your remainder always becomes your new numerator because that's what's ever left. And your denominator stays the same. So that's a little hint with this. You can divide it out or you can draw the picture. Again, we're going to work on this later this week. So if that was hard for you, I know I went kind of quick today. We're going to work on it this week. So 3 3/4 should have been that answer. So 15 plus 3 is 18. So your answer should be 18 3/4 units. Units squared. Okay. Now for number 5, explain the strategy that you use to find the area of the rectangle in problem 3. Use words like row, column, square, unit, partial square to help you make your thinking clear. That means that pretend like you're explaining this to somebody that didn't see the problem. Okay? You need to use these words to help them understand what you did. So, if it were me, this is what I would write. I'm doing this as a sample today to show you what I expect. Okay, so if it were me, this is what I would write. What I want you to do is I want you to copy down what I'm writing and use this to help you next time, okay? So what did I do? There are 5 1/3 units in width and 4 units in length. I did repeated addition to find out how many square units there were. That's how I did it. It didn't say give me your answer. It said explain the strategy. I told you my strategy was I used repeated addition. Right? That's all you need to do for that problem. All right, what's going to happen? You are now going to go to your math boxes page. Your math boxes today, there are 6-ish questions. Some can be tricky, but I'm going to give you a hint. On the last few questions, it says give the value of the number. It doesn't say what place value spot is it in. It means how much is it worth. We did this on Monday. The lesson that I did with you, you had to write the value of specific numbers. I'm going to show you that really quickly right here. Write the value of the 5 in these numbers. I said the value of that 5 is worth 50 because if I had 5 $10 bills, it's worth $50, right? So the questions on your math boxes should look like this. So right here on number 6, it says give the value of the 4 in each number. So how much is it worth? I'm going to give you a hint. I'm going to do number A for you. So everyone should get this one right when you put your answers in. Okay. What is the value of the 4? So I have the ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s. So 4 groups of 10,000 is 40,000. A hint that you have is literally put that number down and every digit to the right turns to 0. That's how much it's worth. That's your hint. All right, go ahead and do these problems for the day. That is going to be your assignment. It is not a quiz, but this will be one of the first grades that you have going in the grade book. Make sure you are taking your time. If you have questions, make sure you are logging on during our question and answer session. That time was actually set up and it was on your newsletter. So check that newsletter for those times. All right, have a great day, guys. I can't wait to show you the lesson tomorrow. We're going to have a great week. See you soon.